Today, pleasantly surprised, Mr. Ghanshyam Tiwari has made some brilliant and important points. Let me add a little bit to that. Because make no mistake, this is not a cyber security or a trade or economic move. This is a defense move. And that is why I welcome it. Finally, India has begun to overtly use economic and trade sanctions as a legitimate weapon of war. This is what superpowers like the US do before unleashing or in lieu of physical weapons. And that's why I support India in this endeavor, because I support our armed forces in this India-China standoff. Two very important points here. Number one, we have never done this overtly. Maybe covertly with small nations we have, but overtly we have never done this. So today is actually, we have crossed a Rubicon. Remember, Navika, that for decades, while Pakistan, this rogue terror nation, perpetrated terrorism on our land, the Mumbai bomb blast, the 26/11, the Kashmir fiascos, everything. Remember, during all these attacks, including Pulwama, during Modi's rule, Pakistan enjoyed what? The most favored nation status. 1 week before Pulwama, we invited the people who were overlooking the Indus Water Treaty to come, and they lambasted us. So, you know, we might have 56-inch chest, but we have traditionally never held our cards close to our chest. We are really poor negotiators. And what is the most important weapon in any war, be it especially the defense war where you need weapons? The most important weapon is actually, the first weapon that should be used is economic and trade weapon. And today we have shown that yes, this is a negotiating tactic. Now point number two, very important, Navika, please give me 30 seconds. Why it was also important to say it explicitly, because obviously if it was for cyber security or privacy issues, as you said, why did we allow these Chinese apps for the last years, 59, 60 of them? So obviously those were not the issues. The issue is defense, and that is why it is cropped up. Now tomorrow, China learns its lesson and comes to the negotiating table and says, all right, we will move across to the pre-existing LAC. Please take back all your sanctions that you have taken on economic and trade sanctions. What are we going to do? Are we going to reinstall all these 60 apps? That would shame us, because where would the cyber security and other reasons go there?
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G. Snoop Dogg.
I have a debit card, you have a credit card, these guys have a victim card. And OIC, speaking of religious persecution, really? Wherein 13 countries, being an atheist, carries the death penalty? It is like the devil quoting the scriptures, or Hafiz Saeed saying he believes in ahimsa. Naqvi is correct. I meant the other naqvi. There still are some honest naqvis left in this world, thank God for that. India is a glorious melting pot of all religions, and everyone enjoys the same constitutional rights. Sure, there is discrimination, and victims today are perpetrators tomorrow. But is it limited to one religious community? No. It may appear so because of rampant selectivity and victimhood by these guys. And some have perfected this art. Honestly, one day I'd like to write a book that, despite being bigoted, misogynist and violent, is revered by millions who, while loving its content, would exhibit a profound persecution complex and accuse other readers and authors of other books as being bigoted, misogynist and violent. It is unbelievable what these moderates brush under the carpet. They are the real Islamophobes because they fear Islam. They fear to make public the word of the holy book in its entirety, because they fear being called illiberal and hypocrites. Moderates populate the caverns, extremists the caves. Moderates wield the pen, extremists the gun. Moderates snare the fundamentalists, but they spare the fundamentals. They accuse others of being Islamophobic, but they themselves are. Otherwise, I challenge them to tell me the prescribed punishment in the holy book of homosexuals, unbelievers, blasphemers, fornicators, dress code violators, idol worshippers, interreligious married apostates. क्यों बोलती बंद हो गई? बेवकूफ बनाना बंद करो. You and your hypocrisy are as transparent as the Zamzam.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G. Snoop Dogg.
So, Dr. Anand Ranganathan, the argument by Ashutosh, does it justify the appearance of headlines in Guardian, in New York Times, in Washington Post, in Al Jazeera? You know, are we giving them a handle to paint India in a certain way? And I want to ask you also, Maoist underground armed war against state, but the rhetoric is they are painted as victims of oppression. Afzal Guru, Zakir Naik, Burhan Wani, you know, look at the way they talk about him. Even Riaz Naiku, was referred to by an international wire agency as a maths teacher. Is this a coincidence?
Maths teacher, yes. No, Navika, no, not at all. Navika, I have said this before and let me repeat it. I have a debit card, you have a credit card, possibly many credit cards, and these guys have a victim card with no expiry date and a pin known to anyone who's seen the film Diwar. It's just incredible to see this victim card being handed to snake oil salesmen and women every hour of every day to buy this entity called transfer of guilt. Honestly, I am in awe. I mean, here is Tejasvi Surya, who quotes a Muslim verbatim and without adding his opinion, and yet he's accused of Islamophobia. The fact is that these accusers are the real Islamophobes. They fear Islam. They fear to make public the word of the holy book in its entirety because they fear being called illiberal or hypocrites. They snare the fundamentalists but spare the fundamentals. Otherwise, I challenge these pretend liberals to tell me the prescribed fate in their holy book of homosexuals, unbelievers, blasphemers, fornicators, dress code violators, idol worshippers and apostates. And let me end by saying, marriage of a Hindu man to a Muslim woman should not be allowed. What happened? You are shocked? You think I'm an Islamophobe for saying it? You want an FIR against me? Well, I have just quoted the order from the Holy Book, chapter 2, verse 221. Do not marry your women to polytheistic men until they believe. आप किस पे FIR करोगे? Or if you condemn this irrefutable, unchangeable order of the holy verse, then say so. I dare you. Better your head on the block than mine.
Well, Dr. Anand Ranganathan does sum it up absolutely succinctly.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G.
Dr. Anand Ranganathan, Latvian's leftist lobby, pseudo-leftist lobby, pseudo-secular lobby in this country that gets an amplified positioning on Twitter, of course, will disagree. But give us 5 reasons why you think that Twitter, according to some, is a hate tube against the right, especially here in India.
Yeah. Yes, Rahul, the order to remove the liability shield hitherto enjoyed by social media companies if they censor content is a really welcome step. I really welcome it. Rahul, if I can delve a little bit philosophically into this whole thesis, we are living in a world where you believe what you see, but unfortunately what you see is written by those who see what they believe. Objectivity has become that metallic object that must be left behind before you pass through the electronic threshold. The biases don't beep anymore. And Twitter is but an extension of the modern, deeply polarized society. This isn't objectionable because polarization means you have a clash of ideas, that there is competition among them. And so it mirrors Darwinian evolution. Science, religion, capitalism, communism, left wing, right wing, Modi, Rahul. There's nothing wrong in professing diametrically opposite likes and views, even if you hold entrenched views. But the problem comes when one party, one ideology, one dogma, one system controls the discourse or weighs in on it. That's where you stop being a platform and start to editorialize and play God, which is what Twitter did when it screened Trump's tweets for flagging fake news or fact checking. Because knowing Twitter, even selecting what to flag, what not to, is a subjective decision, much like taking offense or an abuse or appreciating or condemning an idea. Let me give you one example, Rahul. Please give me 30 seconds. In fact, let me test my fellow panelists. Let's say I tweet, the earth was formed in 6 days and the man created from black mud. Now science tells us that this is a total lie. So should Twitter flag it as fake and withhold my tweet? But these are verses from the Holy Book, chapter 7, 54, chapter 15, verse 26. What if the fact checker adjudicating on my tweets was deeply religious and believed my tweet to be true? Would he disregard science and pass on my tweet? Or what if he was an atheist or a scientist like me? Would he flag my tweet and ask for it to be deleted? Bottom line is, any platform enabling a discourse cannot play God or atheist, because it becomes an echo chamber then. And if it does, and that's where the diversity ends, mutation stalls, mixing is prevented, and evolution shut down. The best way to kill learning, Rahul, is to learn only one thing.
It's the motherfucking Eagle Double G.
The problem, Navika, with Ashutosh is that he knows even less than Jon Snow. And as you know, Jon Snow knows nothing. It is embarrassing for a scientist to teach him history, but I would have to do that. Maybe not, because there is a panelist out there, one of the most erudite speakers and knowledgeable in history, domain of history, Mr. Sushil Pandit. And he's a Kashmiri as well. He should know, right from 1930s onwards, how first Sheikh Abdullah, then Farooq Abdullah, and then his progenies have been dictating and drawing this line that India is not, for Kashmir, Kashmir is not for India. Right from the Kashmir conspiracy case, I don't know Ashutosh has even heard of this. When Sheikh Abdullah was arrested in 1953, when he came out on Jan 20th, 1958 and gave that infamous Hazrat Bal speech, where, wherefrom I quoted, that he says, people, we want self-determination and those who are not with us are our enemies, hinting at India. And he also said, those on the east and on the west who are with us are our friends, hinting at China and Pakistan. And then comes, Farooq Abdullah, then comes his progenies. So either you contradict what Mr. Sushil Pandit is saying, or you please go home, have a little bit of whiskey, and open a history book and educate yourself, Ashutosh.
What?
अरे 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 क्या कर रहे हो? वीडियो पसंद आई तो वीडियो को लाइक कर दो, एक प्यारा सा कमेंट छोड़ दो, अरे चैनल को भी सब्सक्राइब कर दो यार।